Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to Analytics TUG April event. I hope you still having those vibes from TC and but still, a lot of you are here. That's amazing. I was just on my bed and I think I was going to sleep, but still here I am because my boss is here. So okay, so what makes this tug a bit different? We are all about analytics. We are fun. We always talk about different types of functionalities that comes up with Tableau Desktop and also analytics all the time. So I won't take up much of your time. I'll just introduce some of the amazing people we have here on our screen. First, there is Annabelle. She's enjoying life. We have Chimdi, who is a database designer, maybe somewhere sleeping right now. And then it's me, Prasan. So, first, Annabelle, would you like to introduce yourself or should I do it?
Oh, I can do it very quickly. Annabelle Lincoln. I am a Tableau visionary and Tableau ambassador. I'm living in Switzerland and I work as a Tableau enablement and analytic lead for several years. And I'm currently available for hire. So please reach out to me anytime. And yes, I love baking. That is my fun fact. At least found my fun fact, Rassam. I love baking for other people French pastries.
Hopefully, you can bring them to us next TC. Okay, so hey, it's me, Prasan. I just love Tableau and Data Farm, and people who came to TC, they know I just love hanging around people. I started using Tableau in 2020, and I working as a senior BI engineer currently at Emirates and BD. I love sharing whatever I've learned, and one of the ways was to write on LinkedIn, and through that, I've built over a community of more than 80,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I have just four VOTDs. And I love my cats. I have four cats. I love food. I just had my dinner, and I love anime. So three things I can die for sure. And then we have the amazing Chimdi, who is a freelance and contract. He does freelance and contract data visualization for multiple clients via his Vizzes analytics. And he fell in love and went all in Tableau in 2020. Till date, he has got 14. I think it's more. But yes, let's stick to 14 for now. And he co leads Make Home Monday and also participates in different challenges, and he's a really strong believer of functional aesthetics. Talk about building a dashboard that is not just functionally very well, but also looks sweet and right on point. He's a Viz junkie. He enjoys documentaries, also likes working out, and he's attempting to make melodies on the keyboard. I don't know what type of keyboard, but yeah, he's there. Okay, so ground rules. Please use the chat section. I think you already know. Most of you are always here, and I can see this chat box just buzzing around with hello and ev- lots of conversation. That's so cool. So thank you so much for already doing that. You can put all your questions in the Q&A so that we can take this up to our speakers. And don't hesitate to follow us on Twitter at analytics handle. Okay, so this was all about the welcome. And then we have Nicole. She's going to talk about secure, stunning, and accessible landing pages. That's really important for any dashboards. And then we have Dan, who is going to talk about recursive parameters. And then Elisa talking about serious lessons from a fanciful Viz. What Aaron Viz taught me about analytics and storytelling. So lots of interesting sessions that's going to happen in the next 1 to 2 hours. And I'm really excited. So here we go. First, our amazing speakers. First, we have, okay, so Elisa is going first because the slide showed up. It wasn't
Yes.
Riaz. Okay, it wasn't Riaz, please. So Elisa is a self-employed professional, and she goes by the Twitter handle. It's Elisa Davis. If you haven't been following her, just take your mobile phone right now and follow her. And she is actually designing and also providing solutions to her clients about dashboard review and more. She's a Tableau Public Ambassador and also back to his basics co-lead. She specializes in building analytics solutions that don't just look good, they get used. That's really important and a bang on point statement, to be honest. With a background spanning data visualization, analytics strategy, and process automation, Elisa has worked across many industries. I'll let her talk about herself more. And through her work and writing, Elisa explores the messy and fascinating process of turning numbers into narratives and dashboards into decisions, because data doesn't speak for itself. Yes, and today she's going to talk about serious lessons from a fanciful Viz. And now I'll hand over to Elisa to talk about this amazing presentation and share her knowledge with us. Thank you so much, Elisa, for doing this with us.
Thank you so much, Prasan, and thank you for that awesome intro. Let's see, and now it wouldn't let me take over the screen from you, but now I can. So, yeah, a little bit more about me. One thing about me is that I don't love these tech transitions, but I'm getting better. So, yeah, that's me, Elisa Davis, founder of Elisa Davis LLC. I've been full-time freelance for about the past month or two, and I'm loving working for myself and available to have conversations about all of the things that you mentioned. I have also recently launched a Substack. I'm moving away from Twitter, but if you look for It's Elisa Davis on Substack, I continue to be creative with my handle and how you can get a hold of me, but the publication is called Viz and Tell. I've been using Tableau for 8 years. My Tableau career is as old as my kid. And this is not the story today, but having that step back of parental leave really was an opportunity to pivot from the role that I was doing before I became a mom to really coming back, and I picked up full-time Viz work and haven't looked back. So having that break point was an awesome opportunity to make a career pivot even within the same role. I was involved with Back to Biz Basics for 3 years, and the project is still running strong. Go check it out. I have diversified what I'm doing in the data fam, so I'm still a huge cheerleader of the project, but this is more time to do things like my own personal Vizzes and talking about them in presentations like this. I was absolutely honored to receive the Community Leadership Vizzy 2 years ago. And having just come back from the conference and seeing Luigi win it this year, and there was another winner as well, but getting to see him and congratulate him in person it's just a really special award. It means a lot to me, and I think to anyone who has ever earned it. And for some reason, Tableau keeps putting my stuff on their front page again, which I am very flattered. My fun fact is that last year I went to Iceland and I ate fermented shark meat. It was actually pretty good. I would try it again. I figured, why not? I am here today to talk about my Iron Viz entry this year, which was themed around Chapel Roan. I'm going to talk a little bit about inspiration, story design, how I got all that data, and whether or not I stuck it together, interactivity design, and that special wow, which is just some of a catch-all category that lets me talk about a few of my favorite elements and why it was fun to work on. If you haven't heard of Chapel Roan, she is an American pop artist who really rose to fame this year. And my dashboard is the story of her rise to fame, why it resonated with me, how she compares to other artists in the genre and other new artists. And for this presentation, I've given similar talks before, but I have a little bit of the end results. So I've been talking about this since it was finished in November. I've also gotten the feedback from the Iron Viz judges, which is something that you can request. And so new to this presentation, I'm going to talk about how kind of taking this on the road and receiving the scoring feedback has impacted how I understand the project and how I'm going to approach it the next time that I submit. So if you haven't heard of Chapel Roan, we are going to take a quick break, and here she is. Let me know if you guys have audio.
We don't have audio, Elisa.
Oh no! Well, I'll drop the link in the chat. I won't spend forever on it, but you know, she's singing the parking lot, and here she is, absolutely packing the biggest stage at Bonnaroo. So I will learn my lesson and test the audio on the tech check the next time I want to show a clip. So my inspiration for this Viz was entering Iron Viz. The theme this year was entertainment, and the themes are often pretty broad, and you usually have a month to do it. We had 5 weeks this time. I really appreciated kind of the head start to run through a bunch of concepts. I considered and disregarded a couple of ideas, and then I also considered and disregarded whether I was going to enter at all. It can be a pretty big time commitment. How does it fit in with the rest of your work? What's your why, right? Like, why are you entering Iron Viz? What's your goal? Are you entering to win? Apparently some people do. I made the flip comment that this is the only presentation that I enter that I am not actually trying to win. And I heard some other folks who are involved in the Iron Viz stage show talk about how if they were to enter, their goal would be to place 4th. But as I was presenting this to the Data Pred TUG, Bo was like, no, actually, I was trying to win. And then he did. So I think that kind of goes to show that setting an intention is really important when you're entering something like this. So I had a couple of ideas, and then I decided, no, I wasn't going to enter. And then I was like, no, yeah, I am, because I had this song stuck in my head for about a month called Hot to Go by Chapel Roan. And it's so catchy. All of her music is so catchy. If you don't want it stuck in your head for a month, don't listen to it at all. And I ran across this blog by Chris Westlake, who is no longer the reigning champion of Iron Viz. He got dethroned by Bo last week in a very fun show that if you didn't see it, absolutely catch the recording. It is a masterclass on design, analysis, and storytelling by all 3 contestants. And Bo really took it home. But building an Iron Viz entry takes a lot of time. You don't want to burn out. Pick something that you could viz about for days. And I read somebody else talking about, like, you are going to be the local expert on whatever it is that you choose to viz about. So make it something that you know a little bit about and you want to know a lot more. And that's what I did. I have entered Iron Viz. This was my 3rd completed submission. I have a couple more in my Iron Viz graveyard. But since I'm going to be talking about feedback and evolution, I thought I would show you my journey. My first submission, pretty new. I'd been using Tableau for 3 or 4 years at that point, but I'd really only just started vizzing using Tableau Public. And so this was sort of my debut entry. I was really excited about Indian cooking. I typed up an entire cookbook from a recipes and ingredients standpoint and really wanted to do this analysis. Unfortunately, the theme that year was art, and culinary art was judged to be a little bit too tangential to the theme. I was disqualified. So I don't have judging information for that one. If I was making a chart, that one would be a null. But I still love the Viz. I stand by the work. And I think that analytically, it's probably one of the more solid entries that there. The next year, the theme was games, and I made one massive overbuilt, I might finish it, I will probably never finish it concept that I abandoned. And then I was hanging out with friends without about a week to go. A friend of mine was really into this game Wingspan, which I also enjoy. And I was like, what if I could use Iron Viz as an opportunity to try to figure out how to beat Dash at Wingspan? So I found the data was already out there because board game nerds are delightful. And I just ran with learning a lot of lessons about how to create a long form Viz. Didn't place, but felt really solid about my effort. And so that brings us to Hot to Go. I had just finished the Tableau Flairledge Twins Analytics, Advanced Analytics Bootcamp, which require you to turn in a Viz that uses at least 2 of the techniques that you had learned as a final project. And I am never one to waste a deadline or a brief or an opportunity to kind of go all out. And so I used my Iron Viz entry as my final submission for that project. And it was accepted. I passed. But as you can see, so this is how those submissions were scored. I joked about the null category, but my goal when I enter Iron Viz is to, 1, have fun with it, 2, to use the time boxing and the community support and the enthusiasm that builds around the project in the DataFam community to really create a showpiece that is a point in time of what my best work is. Kind of shows my growth as a Tableau developer, as a storyteller, and as a designer. So going in Iron Viz is judged on 3 categories: analysis, design, and storytelling. And I haven't been a judge. I have phenomenal respect for those who have, and maybe I will do it one year so that I can understand more like how these criteria actually play out when the rubber meets the road, because I am interested in continuing to enter this and continuing to do better. And no offense to the guys, but I would love to see 3 women on stage one year. And if you want that to happen, you have to kind of be willing to put some skin in the game. So I was surprised when I put this year-over-year analysis together that the design sophistication, everything was in the Wingspan Viz, it was entirely in tool. I didn't use any external graphic elements. I didn't have time. I ran out of time. For me, this is a project management challenge as much as it is a data challenge. And with Wingspan, I really regretted that I didn't have time to go back and design an appealing tile, the sort of screenshot of what you see as you open the Viz. To quote, I think Portlandia, I really wanted to put a bird on it. And I didn't have the chance to do that. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. So, I did a lot more graphic design this year, but net, it only got me 1 point in design. I think where it really landed was in storytelling. So I moved up. Iron Viz, each category is scored out of 5. And so my overall average moved up almost half a point year over year. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how I built the Viz. So I started with story design. And I am going to run you through my wireframes because this is how I approach a project this big. The first year when I was doing the Indianish Viz, my wireframe was the header, the first 2 charts, and then, a big empty space. I picked a Viz height that I thought I would be able to fill up. And then when as you get closer to the bottom of that Viz, it's more and more squished, as I was absolutely petrified of all of the resizing that I would have to do if you expand the canvas. So I learned to make things a little bit more modular with my second entry. And with the third one, I really wanted to have it mapped out how all of the pieces would be, and kind of have not quite a hi-fi wireframe, but a pretty good idea of where I was going, kind of what I wanted it to look like, a visual concept, as well as the structure of the analysis. From a visual perspective, I decided to do bulletin boards because Chapel Roan is kind of fun and a little bit hectic. Part of her story is that she was signed in high school and then dropped from her record label. And so she was identified early as very talented, but then she went through a scrappy indie era where she was pulling together her costumes from thrift store, sort of like 80s prom. She's got a real drag aesthetic, over the top, very costumey. And so I wanted to sort of channel that fun and connecting with your inner child. So I thought my concept was, like if young Elisa had been attempting this viz and had been aware of Chapel Roan, sort of the crazy collage of information on a bulletin board, but still with some analytic maturity and trying to explain the story in a way that made sense. So my core organizing questions: who was Chapel Roan? What was her path to fame? Could I find any patterns in her music analytically? There were parts that got fun or parts that got cut around how Chapel is very raunchy and fun, and that felt novel to me. Rappers do a lot of explicit singing, but young women don't necessarily do a lot of explicit singing. So, how could I learn anything about that analytically? I was workshopping this concept with a friend and said, what seems really fun about Chapel is that she's throwing a party. She's here, she's queer, and she's here to party. And they were like, well, is music just more fun in general these days? One of the things that appealed to me about Chapel Roan is that I went to a small New England liberal arts college. I listened to a lot of lesbian singer-songwriters when I was in college. I'm very familiar with the genre, and none of them were throwing parties. So I kind of had this question of was I just selecting for the sad, moody people because I was a sad, moody college student, or has, in fact, the music industry shifted? Or, are lesbian singer-songwriters doing different types of music these days? But that might have been a stronger Iron Viz entry, but it is not the direction that I went, because analyzing the entire music industry over 2 decades was kind of a bigger bite that I was ready to bite off and chew in the time frame. So how does it compare to our predecessors? Specifically, how does it compare to the stuff I listened to in college, and why do I care? And so those wireframes turned into this viz. I did it in finals, and I actually really love seeing it side by side. There was part of me that was really hoping that it would have been printed out in the Viz gallery, and I might do it myself at some point. Just looking at the whole sum of what I was able to put together. One of the biggest challenges of Iron Viz is getting the data. It's a data visualization competition, allegedly. I'll get back to that. And you have to get data. And this was not a strength of mine when I started Vizzing. I came into Tableau from this analyst context. My degrees are in math a long time ago, and in public administration, which is similar to an MBA, but with a public sector focus. So scraping data, going out and finding things. I didn't come from a coding background. It really wasn't in my wheelhouse. I have recently started leaning on ChatGPT to help me learn how to do this, and that's phenomenal. But this was in my pre-AI friend era. And so I went out and got 6 different data sets. In the past, I've used one data set. And To be fair, maybe the Viz would have benefited from a little bit more focus, and that's actually one of the lessons I've learned. But I was pretty proud. And the other thing with Iron Viz is you need to be able to upscope or downscope depending on what's going to happen in the month of October. So when the first data set that I actually went out and got was the tour history data. I used Tableau Prep to rearrange the CSV that I'd scraped off of a website, and the quote that I was kind of investigating and challenging was from one of the interviews that said, Chappell Roan spent 7 years becoming an overnight success. And when I had that, I knew I had a solid submission. I would be able to get something across the finish line, and we would see how much of the rest of this I could flesh out. Phenomenon is one of her songs, and so I'm going to use this category, this section, to talk about interactivity, design elements, and my favorite chart that came to life in the Viz. To tell the story of Chappell Roan's rise to fame and how she compared to the rest of her genre, I used a lot of Tableau's interactivity. I really love interactivity, and I think we kind of don't get to do as much of it as I would love. When you're designing for your portfolio, it's really important to think about, where is someone going to interact with this? Maybe they're going to see it if I post about it on Twitter or X or Blue Sky or LinkedIn. They're going to be looking at it on their phone. Maybe they'll click through. But if they click through, they might or might not be able to take advantage of all of the interactive elements. So if you want somebody to interact with something on your Tableau portfolio, you have to really give them a reason to fire up a web browser, take some of their sitting, looking at a computer time away from work and to inspiration. And the same thing for a business dashboard. A lot of times, the main way that those get consumed, and love it or hate it, is in an email subscription, because people just want to know what's the number this week. If the number this week is fine, then they don't need to click through. So I really like tooltips and parameter actions and show hide, and the ability to give people the flexibility to interact with and explore their data, but balancing optimism with realism, a lot of the time they won't need to, and that's not the fastest way to get from data to insight to action. So, but in Iron Viz, you know that somebody is going to be spending time going through your dashboard with a fine-tooth comb, so you can really kind of show off and have fun with it. And so to talk about interactivity, I'm going to take us over to the actual Viz. I'm not going to talk about everything on this because, quite frankly, we don't have time. But I used a lot of show hide with custom buttons. Dynamic zone visibility is awesome, and there is a lot that you can do with custom show hide buttons. So, for example, I designed this little question mark rhinestone element, signposted the interactivity by telling people to click. If you do click here, the page refreshes, everyone's favorite Tableau feature. I've got a bit of information about the design concept. Why am I looking at a world-class BI product that looks a lot like a bulletin board that would be assembled by a very nerdy and crafty teenager? And this is why. And I did that a couple places. I used tooltips to give you a little bit more information. So this section is about Chappell's music becoming more popular. And I thought to myself, if I was looking at this, I would want to know what else was ranking on the Billboard charts, like the week that As Good Luck Babe was climbing the charts, what was it kind of dethroning? What else was popular? on the radio, a lot of Taylor Swift, actually a lot of Taylor Swift. And so for some fun outlier analysis, as I was looking at this, how did the ranks of songs change? Was it pretty stable? Was it pretty volatile? I was like, what is up with this triangle here? It turns out that what is up with this triangle here is Taylor Swift dropped an album and everybody had to scoot over to make space. Let's see, tips, show hide, and there's a couple of things, and I've used them pretty consistently throughout here. I think a mistake that I made that I would change is I buried a lot of my kind of core analytical questions in show hide to maintain the tone of the surface level Viz. I think that's something that I would at least try to wrap up in time to get feedback for before I submitted if I was doing this again. We'll come back and talk bedazzled radar charts later because they're my favorite element of the Viz. But you'll notice that there's consistency here. I've called out click to filter, and this does filter if you want to see where she was playing in 2018. You can hover this, and I've got a Vizzin tooltip that shows you what the shows were that she played in Salt Lake City. I wanted to add some information about, like if there was a metaphorical van driver who was driving all of her equipment from show to show as she was coming up, how far would they have driven? And again, this could have been a whole Viz on its own. And that is something that I really take as a lesson learned from doing this. Again, with the custom show hide, this is one of my favorite parts of the Viz too, because as I was putting together all of the stars on a map and really paying attention to making sure that it looked like something that you might tear out of an atlas, I really felt like, the bar chart, the stars, like it was a lot, but it didn't have quite the emotional impact as the, hey, can I just get this in Excel? The laundry list of all of the places that she played headline shows before her breakout moment. And so I included a crosstab. I love how the notebook formatting came out. That's not a background. It's all playing with the built-in formatting stuff. And so to make this work and kind of feel like it's hanging down off the bottom of the corkboard, I took a screenshot of the top of this and rotated it, put it on a transparent background, and used that entire image as the show hide button. So you can really do a lot with show hide buttons. You can do a lot with custom formatting. And again, that's a serious lesson that you can take from this very silly Viz. And then parameter actions, I also used to do this sort of exploration of genre by decade. Come back and, explore this yourself. But what I did here is I really wanted to show that there are different genres by artist, album, and song. And the concept here is that you can graph energy and mood, which are both things that are in the Spotify API data set of kind of analytical information about your playlists and the music that you're listening to. If you combine just those two elements, you can kind of quickly interpret mood. And this is based on the work of Dr. Mark Brackett, who wrote the book Permission to Feel, and talks about okay, you might not know that much about how you're feeling. My therapist says you should just be able to kind of take a deep breath and explore your own interiority. But it's much more straightforward for those of us who are giant nerds to think about how am I feeling, pleasant or unpleasant? How am I feeling, low or high energy? And then kind of have that as a starting point is your fortune cookie per se of how you're feeling. And I think that it's really interesting to approach playlists like this. In this high quadrant over here, high energy, high pleasantness, you get pleasant, excited, cheerful, motivated, upbeat. And so this was my sort of like analytical approach to it. Feels like she's throwing a party. Can we derive from data about her music? Coming back to the presentation, there's more. I did a about why her rise to fame is significant to me particular and important to, I think, especially the American shifting cultural landscape. I ran out of time. I would have preferred to recreate these as Tableau visualizations or reinterpret them. But again, like I said, with project management. But so coming back into the slideshow, radar charts were one of the elements that I was tackling that was new to me. I knew that I wanted to be able to look at how her songs varied in mood and tone and tempo, and that I wanted to make a radar chart without feeling like it was an excuse to make a radar chart. So radar chart small multiples, I think, are a great way to show little differences between things that are fairly similar. I procrastinated this viz. It was definitely the most technical element of what I was attempting, and I absolutely adore how it came out. I think with every Iron Viz submission that I've created, there's one chart that's sort of really the heart of the story, or like the most eye-catching design element. And for me, it's this one. I just love how my little like pointy stars turned into this bejeweled assortment of shapes that, you can see them individually. And then the chart on the right is actually a happy accident. If you've ever made small radar charts, and I won't get into how to do that today, there are excellent blogs out there. I think I use the Flairledge Twins website. The overarching sort of high level is you have to figure out how many axes you need. You have to kind of do the math to tell them which direction. You're basically plotting lines and then making a shape that connects them. And I wanted to add a little bit of sparkle to it, because every time I got stalled out on this viz, I looked for reasonable excuses to add more rhinestones. And then I actually really liked the layered look. So I'm kind of using that as both a comparison, a legend, and also a little bit of insight. Like, for example, her songs that are more acoustic didn't make it to the Billboard charts, which was a design choice that I made maybe a little bit too subtly, but I used the same colors on the front page, and for those songs, I carried that throughout the viz. So anywhere that I was talking about, say Pink Pony Club, it was the same color. And I made a lot of my own elements, but as we have talked about previously, it didn't really get me more design points. The wingspan, which was absolutely no additional design elements, was 3.8 on the overall scoring. Chapel Roan, which has all of this crazy custom imagery and custom icons. I think where I really picked up points from that work was in the storytelling. It contributed to the vibe of the viz, the engagement, people's sort of excitement to explore it and move through it. But it did not contribute to the design score as much as I thought it would. And I think part of that is because when I think about design for Iron Viz, I previously thought about graphic design, but I think really what we're talking about is information design. People love the billboard design aesthetic. These are actual quotes from my judging. Effective, creative, lost some accessibility points due to the busy background. Like I was also very careful to make sure that all of my chart elements had high enough contrast. So, you win some, you lose some, and you have differences of opinion. I have so much respect for how challenging it is to judge these. But the feedback that I got from judging that I really could have gotten if I had had more time to kind of take this around, get a solid draft and say, hey, does this make sense? Is the information design, instructions on interactivity. It was there, but this chart filters that chart. I didn't call it out specifically. Are the radar charts in an order? They were in an order. You have to tell them in order for them to split it up into small multiples. But the order was the order in which the tracks were released on the album. And I didn't include that. The bottom comment here is about the front page. It's in the subtitle, but it's just not as obvious. So it's about the information design as much or maybe more as it is about the graphic design. Are you arranging this data and making your analysis clear in a context that makes sense? So back to the overall picture and the overall comments from the judges. Overall, this is a very solid analysis, great interplay between facts and data and personal experience, a lot about personality, exploration, analysis, and storytelling. But where I lost some points, and I think this is a very fair critique, is that I was trying to communicate everything that was in my monkey brain about, why I was intrigued by this woman, her rise to fame, her albums, her tour history, how her discography compared to the rest of the genre, why it mattered for the rest of society. That's a novel. Like, if we think about information and communication, I've used this analogy a lot before, that when you're trying to build a portfolio, don't think about writing a novel. Think about making a postcard. 1 or 2 charts, very well designed, kind of like something that you could hand to somebody and be like, look, this is what I can do. When you're doing Iron Viz, try to think of something that's like a short essay, right? You're writing a piece for, I don't know, it's a longer weekend piece for the New York Times, or something a little bit quirkier, right? And even Iron Viz, I was able to sustain my author's interest, or my reviewer's interest, through the whole thing. But this is a novel. This is a novel. And so if I had taken my wireframe and gone and got feedback from someplace like Sarah Bartlett every year runs the feedback initiative. So even if you don't know people who are former judges or million-time Viz of the Day entrant, winners or anything like that, you can sign up and she will matchmake you with a whole group of them who absolutely just love giving you feedback on your presentation. And that's also a tip that Bo shared at the Data Pride TUG when we presented together. He said, I really took this, I did feedback early, I did feedback often. I had things that I loved that when I took them to other people, they just weren't communicating as well as I expected them to. So my lesson learned, I don't think that Iron Viz is a data visualization competition. I think that Iron Viz is a data communication conversation. And you cannot win a data communication conversation without actually talking to someone. So we'll open questions. I know I'm absolutely at time. If you haven't had a chance to explore the Viz, I hope you'll check it out. I'm going to share all of the feedback that I've received from the judges on both my Iron Viz we looked at today and from my Wingspan later this week or maybe this weekend on Substack. So if you're interested in the blow-by-blow, go to itselisaddavis.substack.com and subscribe to my newsletter called Viz and Tell, and it will land in your inbox as soon as I finish wrapping up the conclusion. And I hope you've gotten some tips that are both practical and inspiring. Open for questions.
Thank you very much, Elisa. It was very cool. We have one question, but before I just wanted to say, if you want to share any link with the audience, you can send it to me and I will spread the word in our YouTube channel and email that we will send later. We have one question for the moment about from Jenna Lee. How did you place the jewel on the edge of the radar chart?
How did I plot the gems on the edge of the radar charts?
Of course.
So they are in a second layer. You can download the Viz and pop under the hood. Actually, I have it open, so I will be brave and unshare and reshare, and we'll get the whole screen, and hopefully I remember to turn off notifications. But this one is a quick one to show you. So you can download the Viz, and that's actually how I interact with it, because if you move the icons, all of the links break. Pop to the sheet, and then you can see I've got my XY coordinates, and I've just duplicated the X coordinate to get shapes. There are the shapes, and then the shapes are actually a custom shape in my shape repository. And now I forever have the opportunity to add rhinestones to my Viz. So you can steal my rhinestones if you want to. I absolutely think that more visualizations should have rhinestones on them. Download the workbook and unpackage it, or copy and paste out the images and go for it.
I think it was clear enough. Jenna, thanks you.
Thank you.
Do we have another question, or should we pass to the next speaker? Let's introduce the next speakers, and thank you very much, Elisa.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I have Viraj saying that please do not forget to give credit to Elisa when you use a rhinestone.
I will. I am happy to have credit, or I am happy for there just to be more rhinestones out there in the world. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Elisa. I always love it when I see someone scribbling down the ideas on paper and then visualizing it. That's my favorite, actually. I always do it. And I loved it, how you have illustrated it first and then you're building it. Great stuff. Okay, so Annabelle has already taken up the question. So now we are set for our next speaker. So here we have Dan Chissick. I'm pronouncing it right, Dan?
Yeah, I just had a problem.
Okay, very cool. So you can find Dan on LinkedIn. You can just search his name, and I'm sure you'll be able to.
It's Chissick. Chissick. It's as if like a Z. Sounds like a Z.
Chissick. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we have Dan Chissick, and you can find him on LinkedIn. You can just search his name, and I'm damn sure. I just tagged him, so I know you can find him for sure. He works as a senior solutions architect at EPAM, and he designs and develops BI solutions for his customers. He has been in the BI industry for almost 30 years, 11 of them at NAYA and 10 years with Tableau. He's a 3 times Tableau Community Forums ambassador, and he lives in Ramat Eshai, that's in the north of Israel. Dan is happily married with 4 kids. His main hobby is orienteering, and he even had the honor of representing his country at the World Championships when he was younger, back in the 90s. That's actually big. And he's going to talk about recursive parameters, and I'm sure it's going to be very useful for us. So over to you, Dan.
Okay, and someone took away my ability to share the screen here, right? Because you were there. Okay. Share PowerPoint. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'll be switching between screens a lot. but we'll try to make it as smooth as possible. So the actual presentation was originally at DataFam Europe in London about half a year ago. So I'm Dan Chissick. I'll talk to you about recursive parameters. I'll explain what it is and show a few examples, starting with the basics, some stuff about business applications, the really interesting things, which are games, but that's at the end, because most of us actually have to use this for our work, not for gaming. About myself, as you introduced me, I'm a BI team leader at Naya Technologies, which is a subsidiary of EPAM. At work, I've been doing BI for 30 years, over 11 years at Naya. I've worked with over 90, it's almost 100, I can't actually count. There are almost 100 different Tableau customers. I write and I teach Tableau courses. I have all the certifications, not all at the same time. I just simply switch every couple of years when they expire. That's for work. And then I go home and I do more Tableau. So I'm a third-year Tableau Forums ambassador. I jugged the Iron Viz qualifiers last year, so I know I do. I can't actually participate in Iron Viz. We're not allowed here in Israel. I've been viewing and improving certification exams. I have my Tableau public profile, of course, no visitor days. And I was a speaker with more or less this presentation at TC 2024 and DataFam Europe last year. There's a link here to my my public profile, easy to find. I'm an active I'm getting older, but I'm a very active orienteer, coach, runner, and mapper. Orienteering, for anyone who doesn't know, is navigating while running. It's a quite common sport. I'm sure Annabelle knows about it. She lives in Switzerland. The Swiss are very good at orienteering. I've represented Israel in World Championships, but that was when I was young and I wasn't very good. I mean, we weren't very good. Not because I wasn't good. So why are we here? Business or pleasure? That's what I asked at the conference. The truth is that we're here for pleasure, for fun. So we'll actually start with a game. And now we'll go to this. And all this recursive parameters, actually recursive parameter actions, started by creating games. So and this is the simplest example of a game. This is on Tableau Public. You can play a tic-tac-toe with yourself. So you click on a cell, if it works. It's refreshing. Okay. And I can try and win. And I can make a mistake. And then zeros wins. Okay, and then you start over. And this is a game, simple game. And I started working with recursive parameters by creating games. But let's go back to how it's done. Okay, so the technical explanation starts from what is recursion. Recursion occurs when the definition of a concept or process or parameter, of course, depends. Excuse me, the kids are here. Depends on a simpler or previous version of itself. Okay, so the whole idea is to base the value of a parameter on a previous version of itself. So the way to do it is to first you create a parameter, of course. In this case, it would usually be a string or a number. Let's say a counter. Okay, I'll call it counter, and it's an integer. Step 2 is to create a calculated field based on the parameter. Okay, so my calculated fields, this is the simplest possible version of this would be counter plus 1. And step 3 is create a parameter action that when clicking populates the parameter with the value of this calculated field. So every time I implement a parameter action, every time I click, in this case, the counter would increase by 1. Theoretically, it would be indefinitely. Okay, so we'll go to a simple example, a Fibonacci sequence, a bit more complicated than a counter, and show how it works in actual Tableau. Okay, so I have Fibonacci sequence. If someone doesn't remember, every number is the sum of the 2 previous numbers. Okay, and then we can use recursive parameters to implement this. Go to our next tab, which is desktop. Okay, and this is in desktop, and I'm going to actually show the explanation. Okay, so I have, notice that I have both, this is the exact same counter that I was talking about earlier. This is the Fibonacci number, and notice that I have 3 parameters in the background. The counter, Fibonacci current, which is this one, and Fibonacci previous, which for the first number is also 1. Now, every time I click, okay, the numbers are going to change. Okay, Fibonacci goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. Notice the counter goes up by 1 each time. 8, 13, 21, 34, and so on. Fun fact, if you do it enough, you find out at what point Tableau doesn't have resolution. The numbers start to get zeros at the end. But that's a long way away. It's in the trillions somewhere. How does it work? So my calculated fields, I'll show them in a minute in the worksheet. I have next counter, which is counter plus 1. I have Fibonacci next, which is the next value that has to appear here, the next value of Fibonacci current, which is Fibonacci current plus Fibonacci previous. I need the sum of the last 2 numbers. And I also have another calculated field, Fibonacci, which includes Fibonacci current, because I have to push this one back here. Okay, so my parameter actions are all happening when I click. We can actually see them in a minute. Next counter goes into counter. Fibonacci next, which is the sum of these two, 89, goes into Fibonacci current, and Fibonacci, which is this one, goes into previous. I'm going to click, you see 89 here in a minute and 55 here. Okay, so if I go into the worksheet, you can actually see, let's just take one as an example, Fibonacci next is just the sum of these 2 parameters. Okay, and in my actions, I can see dashboard actions. Okay, I have lots of stuff. Wait, just this sheet. Okay, so I have Fibonacci previous, for example, and just have a simple parameter actions. I'm taking value of one field, and in this case it's Fibonacci. It's called Fibonacci, but again, this is actually a recursive parameter. The recursive one would be this one. The field that I'm putting into Fibonacci current is actually based on it. That's what makes it recursive. So it's remembering the previous value of the parameter, doing something, changing it, and pushing it to a new value of a parameter. And that's what makes recursive parameters work. And nearly always there's a clear button. The clear button just pushes 1 into all the parameters in this case. Okay, and that's a simple parameter action, just placing a value in a parameter. Okay, so that's a simple example. Let's go back to our PowerPoint, wherever that was. Okay, and I have an explanation here and all the actions. And let's go into some business uses of parameter actions, of recursive parameter actions. So the first one is ordered sets, and we're going to the next level here. So we had a simple click. Whenever I click, something happens. Now we need different results. So clicking on a different cell or a different member of a dimension would pass a different value to the parameter. Okay, that's what makes it more advanced. One click can affect several parameters. We've already seen that. Okay, and we can also add different actions. So I can add menu actions. I can't, of course, have two totally different actions on the same click, but if I have a menu action, I can enable additional operations. We're going to see how this works by switching back to desktop. I'm going to look at a simple example, a simple dashboard. And this is an actual use case. Okay, this is based on the Superstore, of course, but I actually had a question with a very similar use case on the forums. So I want to remember the order in which I selected my products. Okay, so if you look at this, and here we can see the parameter, you can see what's happening. There's some, let's clear the list. Okay, I haven't selected any products. Now, normally if you select, let's say you have a set, okay, you have set actions, you can select any products that you want and then see your list of selected products with a set. That's very easy, but you can't sort them. It won't remember the order in which you selected your products. Here you can actually remember the order. So I'm going to select this one. Okay, Riverside Palais. You can see it's the first one. I'm going to select another one and another one. And each one of these is added to the list in the order in which I select them. And sometimes it's useful. That's exactly what you need. In this case, of course, it's just a demo. But some people actually need this. Okay. Now, what's happening? How does this work? This is a recursive parameter. The parameter value has a concatenation of all the IDs. You can't actually, these are the names, but these are the IDs. You can see them here of the products. Okay, and each time I click on one, I can go to the bottom of the list even, click on something, and it's added to the end of the list. Okay, and the list defines in which order I can see them. Now, in addition, I can even remove from the list. Okay, so I have a menu action here, I can remove from the list. How does this work? Okay, let's show you. Every time I click on a different member, okay, you can see, I can actually see in the tooltip here that there's a calculated field called listed products plus selection. So, and it's different. If you look at it, for each one of these, look at it, you can see that the end changes. So my calculated field is taking the listed products parameter that we can see on the right, and it's adding the new product, the product ID that I'm hovering over, it's adding it to the calculated field. So when I click, this is the value that's moved to the listed products parameter. Okay, now I can pass this parameter in any way I want. The way I actually do it is that I have a products order field. And if you look at it, I just check if I can find listed products, product ID. So if I'm finding the product ID in my parameter, in my string, so if it's 0, then I'm giving it a 9999, else I'm returning the number. What's this number? This is the order that I'm seeing here. It doesn't actually have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the location of the product ID in the parameter. Okay, this is a parameter. I can show it. So this product ID, oh, not much space. This product ID is the first one. It starts at character 2. The second one starts at character 18. So I can use this to order them in the correct order within my worksheet. So that's how I'm selecting a list of products. And obviously you can use it to select and order a list of whatever you want in any business use case. Clearing the list, simple parameter action, sends an empty string here, and remove, it will remove it. Okay, how does it remove it? I'm doing the same manipulation, but in the opposite way. Instead of adding to the end, you can see that I have a remove product calculated field. Okay, where is it? Remove product. So I'm actually replacing the product ID with an empty string, removing it from a string so it drops out. So now users can play around with the order of things. They can remove from the list, and soon we'll see how we do it even better with something else. And our something else is my Iron Viz, not the global Iron Viz. Iron Viz Israel submission for last year, which didn't win. Okay, and we had to use Superstore, so I created a Superstore KPI dashboard, and I'm not going to talk about all the other techniques here. This is one worksheet, by the way, not different worksheets. I want to talk about, I actually implemented this same technique, and the use case here is that you can create a set of KPIs, which are different measures, but in this case, they're actually pivoted to a dimension, and give each user the possibility to select their KPIs in which order they want to see them. Okay, so I can click on a KPI and it will be added to the list. Okay, it's waking up now. It's been dormant for a while, so it didn't have it in memory. So I've added the average order here to the list. I can click on a KPI and I have various options. I can move it to the top. Number of orders will now jump to the top, which is here. I think I've overloaded my laptop. It's actually faster on Tableau Public. The number of orders switch to be the first one. I can, let's move a profit above a profit ratio, move up. It's much faster on Tableau Public. Okay, so, and of course I can remove something. So I'll take a new customer and remove KPI. I can play around with the KPI. So as a user, let's not think about the developer here. Let's think about the manager. We can play with a few. We can also change this, of course, change the layout, but that's not a recursive parameter action. That's just playing around with the layout. A user can decide which KPIs he wants to see, place them. And one of the advantages of actually working with, not with Tableau Public or Desktop, but with Tableau Cloud or Tableau Server would be that you can save custom views. So once the user decided which KPIs are important, we'll show this on the web. So if I go here, this is not on Tableau Public. This is on Tableau Cloud on purpose. Okay, so I've sort of impersonated a user here, and I have custom views. So I can select a different custom view and the user can save. When he's saving the parameters with a custom view. So each user can have his own default view of this same KPI dashboard, but it would be an actual different view. So I had the delivery, now I can switch to all KPIs. Okay, and it's in this case, it's one user with two different views, but each user could have his own default custom view and wouldn't have to go and change everything each time he opens the workbook, the dashboard. So that's the idea for my Iron Viz. I didn't win because it's good on analysis, but not much design and storytelling, and that's okay. That's perfectly legitimate, but it was fun making it. Next. Okay, so that was a personalized KPIs. Next is a stock picker. Okay, and we used to do it like this. I remember once that an actual customer wanted to analyze some sort of, let's say, attributes, properties of something, and they wanted to give each one of them a weight. And then they had a value. You could aggregate it in different ways. You could multiply by the weight and get a score. Okay, but they wanted to analyze up to 10 different variables, different properties. And the only way to do it was to create 30 parameters. Okay, you can select it. You have 10 parameters for selecting your variable, another 10 for selecting which aggregation, sum or mean, another 10 for selecting the weight for each, and then some very long calculations using all 30 of these parameters. Okay, now you can do it with recursive parameters. Okay, remember I was selecting products earlier. Now I'm going to select in a slightly different way. By using one main parameter and a couple of minor ones, I can enter an unlimited number of measures or variables. I can clear all of them. Here you would have to clear them with one by one. I can clear with one button, and I can add as much logic as I want. Okay, so it's actually a stock picker. Select a portfolio of stocks. I've taken some database that I found with, I have a ticker. I can choose a number of shares, and then I want to see how my portfolio has been behaving over the past, over any period of time. Let's have a look at it. Okay, so this is a stock picker. I have a portfolio here. I just choose anything, okay, something I've never heard of. I'll put 400 shares here, okay. And when I click add to portfolio, it's going to appear here, Logitech, okay, 400 shares. Okay, it's been added to my chart here. My total value is, of course, calculated based on these. It's a bit like selecting the products, but here, notice that we're actually concatenating both the ticker and the number of shares into our main parameter. So it's the same logic. I'm adding an additional one. I can then remove it, of course. But here, if I've chosen one that already exists, it's telling me remove from portfolio. Same, I would be replacing the value here. And I'm not going to go into all the techniques for parsing this very long string and turning it into this list and getting the quantity out of it, but that's just playing around with strings. The idea here is that you can use a recursive parameter. I want to add a new stock. I want to decide how many shares. I want to add it to the portfolio. Okay, and it's simply adding the string at the end here, and the parsing capability is just normal Tableau stuff. You do it at the end and do it afterwards, and it creates this list. I want to remove something, and let's remove CRM. You know who CRM is, right? It's Salesforce. So I can now remove Salesforce from my list, and it's being removed. Same way as before, some bit of manipulation and replacing that part of the string with an empty string. And the techniques, the important technique here is that there's a dashboard action that adds a concatenation of these two to my main parameter, which holds my list of stocks. And of course, I can have 2 or 3. I can get to as many as I want here. I don't know if there's a limit even. Okay, there are of course additional implementations possible, but because time is short, we'll get on to the games. Okay. Okay, so this was a stock picker. So how do you create a game? A game, and I started with doing games, by the way. All the business stuff is only in the past couple of years. I think I created my first Tableau game with recursive parameters in 2019, when parameter actions came out. So there's always a parameter which contains the state of a game. Okay, and various supporting parameters. For instance, with tic-tac-toe, you can see that there's a parameter here, which is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cells. Okay, a 2 is a 0, a 1 is a cross, again, a 2 is a 0, and a 0 here is empty. That's the state of a game. And when I click, this parameter changes. Okay, remember, one click can change any number of parameters. Okay, I have a step count here, which I need in order to know what's the next play. Is it a cross or 0? Okay, if it's odd, it's a cross. If it's even, it's a 0. And all the rest is calculations around this. Okay, we can have a look in desktop. I think I have it open in the desktop. Okay, so now we can show the parameters. Okay, so when I play, you can see this change. This is the middle one, the 5th cell. It changed to 1. This is the 9th one. It changed to 2. The step count is on 3. Okay, I'm just going to put something anywhere. This is the 7th one. This is simplest game, and this is what happens when you play a game. Okay, now I can do a couple of hours here about how to create a game, but I'll simply go through the games that I have. Okay, and show you the examples. I'm going to actually from the last to the first. So the last one is, this was a special request by Matthew Miller from Tableau after DataFam, and I created for him. I'll actually go back to a PowerPoint. Now, anyone who wants to play this game, okay, you have a QR code here. It's mobile phone friendly. So if you scan it now or afterwards from a recording, you go straight to the game and you can start playing. Okay, I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. Quickly get out all your mobile phones. And there's another one later, so I'll give you another opportunity. Let's go back to the actual game. So here, we're going to start a game. I have to guess the number, of course. So I'll just show you one step or two, and that's it. Let's guess 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And I've got one of the numbers is in the right place, all the others aren't there at all. Okay, and I can continue, of course. I'm going to change it, 4, 3, 2, 5. Just guessing, of course. Okay, and okay, one of the ones that I changed is the one that's there, 4, 2, and so on. But of course, let's go on to the next game. The next game is set. I hope some of you have played set in the past, and that's always, by the way, in my games, always click on start a new game when you start. So it randomizes everything. Set is selecting, well, I'm not going to explain everything. There's a set here that I can see immediately. 1, 2, and 3. It's found the set, put it here, and brought in 3 new cards. Okay, this is all parameter actions. Whenever I click on something, there's a parameter which contains the state of this grid and enables me to play it. This game is also mobile phone friendly, so you have a QR code, you can scan it, and the mobile version is here in the screenshot on the right. That's what it looks like. You can scan it and play with it. I play this sometimes on the train on my way home when I'm passing the time and just play with myself. So this is, I'm really satisfied with this game. It came out really well. No, we weren't there. We were here. Okay, so there's a Minesweeper game. Okay, I can create a new game if it works. Okay, and when I click start, it'll uncover something, and now I can try to reveal something here. It's a bit slow compared to regular games, but oh, that's good. Okay, I'm going to reveal this one. I'm gonna hit a mine in a minute. This has to be a mine. Okay, bang, and I've lost. Okay, so we have Minesweeper. We have my first game. This was actually the first game. This is an improved version, but this was a memory pairs game, just matching the pairs. You can actually select different things. Okay, so there's the flowers and the African animals. So you select a couple of cards. They're not the same one. So when I click, the third one, it did. Oh, that's good. Great, I found a pair, and so on. So my kids played with this a lot. And the last one is the Sudoku helper. You can actually enter a Sudoku game here, and you can fill it in as well. So I can say, okay, I want a 5 here because it's telling me that's the only option. And there's a 2 here. Okay, and so on. I have various options. If I don't mark anything, then I can highlight numbers and so on. And of course, there is a help here, so you have explanations about everything. Those are games created with recursive parameter actions. Okay, so you have everything in the PowerPoint, which we will share in some way, but the links are here anyway. Everything in my Tableau public profile, of course. Since then, of course, some other people have started to use the recursive parameters. There's a blog post by June Kim, who's also an ambassador, who created sort of multi-select parameters. It wasn't 2 months ago, it was a long time, it was about a year ago, but it's very, very nice functionality, worth looking at and reading. And then a very nice maze game, which came out a couple of weeks ago, I think, or a week ago. Uses recursive parameters. You can have a look at it. It's by Rob Taylor. I saw it in the community just a few days ago, and it uses exactly this technique. And there's a workbook with the explanations and everything, and the examples is on my public visits from Data Farm Europe. So it's over there. So now I'll go back and see if all of you were actually listening, or I lost you a long time ago.
We were playing, Dan. We were playing.
You were playing. Ah, okay.
No, we have some question.
Well, yeah, I can
So
see.
a lot of a lot of us or attendee really love your explanation and your game, and they are wondering if you will give me the link of the different workbook. I have already found some of them in your Tableau Public profile, and to answer some of the questions, they are downloadable. Otherwise,
Okay, I can see them. I can see them. So I'll read them and answer them. Okay, whatever,
yes, that will
as
be
quickly
very
as possible, because Nicole is waiting and
exactly. Let's do
she
that.
also needs her time. So there's a question about win conditions for tic-tac-toe. That has nothing to do with the recursive parameters. Of course, it's a sort of parsing that string of 9 numbers and into a 3x3 grid, and just a lot of mathematical calculations. You can actually open it, download it, open it, and look at it. Okay, and no, the actual file is not Tableau Public. It's a very similar one from DataFam Europe. It's on my Tableau Public. It's there. I think it's one in the link. Yes, it's the one in the first link in the Q&A. Blog post not yet. Clearing all values at once, no. There's a different parameter action for clearing each parameter. So if you have 8 parameters, which is more or less what I have in the memory game, then clicking on start again or clear or whatever has to perform 8 different actions. All of them are moving as empty string or 0 or 1 to a different parameter. The order of execution, I haven't got a clue. It works. That's the important thing. I think it's simultaneous. So it sort of does a commit at the end. Okay, so I think that's the way it works, because it always works. Those are the questions, right? Yes, I think that answered all the questions.
Yeah, and you will send to me like the link, and I will make them available for everyone also.
Yeah, I'll send everything, but the link is already here, and there's actually
I found them
in the
on your tablet.
Q&A. There's a link. There's a link to the main sample, and once you're in my Tableau Public profile, you can find all the games. They're categorized, by the way. If you haven't heard of this feature, everything is categorized now in Tableau Public, so you can just go to the games category and find all the games. And okay, thank you very much for listening, and I'll hand over to Nicole.
Thank you very much, Dan. So yeah, Prasam is back.
Yes, I'm here. Okay, so thank you so much, Dan, again for such a great session and for also answering all of the questions. And yes, that workbook will certainly help, and the slides as well. So now here we go to our last but not the least speaker, Nicole Klassen. You can follow her on Twitter with the handle Nicole Klassen12, and she is a data visualization developer at ABT Global. She is also a Tableau ambassador and Tableau visionary, and builds just great storytelling dashboards. I don't have to read through this because I know her work and it's amazing. And she has her expertise in data visualization, analytics, and strategy, and she turns complex data sets into compelling stories. And she has a wide range of experience spanning around public, private, and consulting sectors. And she believes in the ethical use of data and its potential to drive positive change. And her strength lies in making complex technical concepts accessible. And outside of Vizzing, she loves reading, rock climbing, travel, and pretty much anything science fiction. If you haven't checked out her Tableau Public profile, you should, because then you will actually see some of the great visualization. If you might have seen Doctor Who, it's a really cool visualization she did, and I remember it. and she's going to talk about secure, stunning, and accessible landing pages. Over to you, Nicole.
Thank you. Yes, so thank you so much for that introduction. This presentation, when I find it, I want screen 2.
Nicole, please, just one thing. Please take your time. You have all the time of the world. I'm here until the end, so we don't have a hard stop at 8 p.m. my time, so you can go.
Thank you so much. I think it'll be good. So this is a presentation that myself and my coworker Jackie did at Tableau conference, and Tableau only gave us 20 minutes. So I think I can do the short version of it, but we'll see how many questions we have. So as I mentioned, this is a presentation that why are we not advancing slides? Hold on. That we did at Tableau conference. So I'll do a very small introduction because Prasan did an amazing one, and go through kind of this case study of why we decided that we needed to build this, how we built accessibility into it to make sure that it was accessible, usable by both mouse, but also keyboard only, because we wanted to make sure that anyone who does not use a mouse could still use it. How we used parameters and dynamic zone visibility in order to do that, and then a demo of it. So I'm not going to reintroduce myself, but I'm Nicole, and then Jackie is my amazing coworker who is currently on vacation in Europe and cannot present with me, but she is fantastic. So why did we go through and we built this? So it started off with, hopefully in your organizations as well, you have a suite of dashboards. They're beautiful. They have the information and the insights that your clients need. They are getting used. It's great. But then, you introduce new dashboards. And this is the landing page of Tableau Server that they have to see in order to find your beautiful, usable dashboards. Personally, and with our clients, this server landing page was not really intuitive. If you have 3 favorites, okay, you can see them across the bottom. But otherwise, the home page doesn't have all the folders. You have to go to Explore. And then the way that the permissions work in Server and Cloud, it's 8,000 clicks to get to the dashboard you want if you have different folders and different permission groups. And we wanted something that was just much more streamlined and much easier for our clients. So what were some of the things, kind of our iterative processes we're thinking about this landing page? The first option that we went through was using URL actions. So we were able to pull the dashboard and titles and descriptions pretty easily. You can pull them into your data lake, or in this, this is all built in public, this one, so it's on Excel. And it uses row level security to show the dashboards that the people have access to. And then you can use URL actions in order to click on, women in business, take you to that dashboard. The pros of this approach was that it was really easy to create and maintain, which we love. We wanted things automated as much as we could. But the cons are that currently URL actions are not keyword accessible. In the keynote at Tableau conference, or does on stage, they mentioned that actions are going to become keyboard accessible, which I'm really excited about. But for now, they are not currently accessible. And that was a really big point that we needed to hit on ours. And then also, just from a user experience perspective, there weren't really images to show people what dashboard they had access to and what was going on. So then when we went to using images, because in Tableau, if you drop an image onto your dashboard and you put a URL, that is keyboard accessible. So you can click into the tab into the image, hit enter, it'll take you to that dashboard. So that hit that, being fully accessible part. It is more difficult to maintain. And if you just put images on the dashboard, even with like a sheet next to it with your title and your descriptions, it doesn't work in conjunction with row level security. And so then it's just an image for every single dashboard. People have to know what they do and don't have access to. So that wasn't going to quite work either. We wanted to be able to bring it all together into one dashboard, use images and uses row level security. And in order to do that, we realized that we needed to use dynamic zone visibility. So what this allows us to do, and we're going to walk through the calculations and how it was built in Tableau, but what it allows us to do is bring in that accessibility piece. So this demo uses JPEG images. You can use Tableau's image role function to hit their API and get images. Will Perkins and Kyle Massey did a great presentation on that. The downside with that is it is using the URL actions, which are not keyboard accessible. So we used the images and we stuck a URL in them. We made sure that there was a good amount of color contrast. And then we updated Tableau's tab order for the user experience that I'm going to walk through when I pull the dashboard up as well. Tableau has made a lot of leaps and bounds in terms of the tab order, which is when you hit the tab button, what elements does it select in its, does it select for the screen reader to read? However, at the moment, the default order is kind of Western reading. So top, down, left, right. And in our dashboard, we actually needed to update that tab order for the user experience. I'm not going to necessarily go into the tab order because it is tedious, but it involves going into the XML, and I am available on LinkedIn if you have questions on how to update that. But I'm going to show you how we updated it, or what that end result is of updating it to make it that keyboard accessible. Then we have the dynamic zone visibility. So we create containers that houses the image and then that dashboard description. The description can be pulled from the API, housed in a spreadsheet, however it is that you want to get that information. And then it uses that row level security, which you need a data source with user IDs and who has access to the dashboards. This part can be automated if you have a data lake and data warehouse, anything like that. You can, depending on the infrastructure at your company, you can pull the permission information from Tableau server or cloud, put it into your data warehouse or data lake, and then you have an updated version of who should have access to what in order to check those permissions. Or, because this example is built in public, you can put it in an Excel file. Not as easy to maintain, but it just depends on that level of maturity that you have. It's possible even without a data warehouse or a data lake. That was, all right, we're back. Let me pull up where we were. I should have done this before I shared my screen. All right. So with dynamic zone visibility, the way that it works is it uses a true-false calculation in order to show things on your dashboard. So if your calculation returns a true, it'll show that whatever you've put the dynamic zone visibility on your dashboard, and if it shows us false, it's hidden from your dashboard. But that calculation needs to have a parameter. So this is how we kind of got around that thing. So the first thing that we did was we checked on the user ID. So that user access filter calculation is the username. So that's a function in Tableau that checks the username of the person who is signed into server or cloud and who has clicked on your dashboard. Does it match that row level security? Do they have access? We did binary 1-0 for yes, no. And then do they have access for the specific dashboard? We did need to, because we're not using URL actions, we had to build one of these out for each dashboard that we have. So we say if you have access to this dashboard and you are Nicole Klassen, then this person has access. Otherwise, they do not have access. So we've created this string now. We had to get this string dynamically into a parameter in order for dynamic zone visibility to work every time someone clicked on a dashboard. So what we did was create a parameter that says when the workbook opens, pull the value for that calculation. So in that case, I had access to my dashboard. So it's going to say I had access. But if I was Elisa and I don't have access to it, this parameter would populate when she clicked on it with no access. So that's how we get this dynamic piece going in. And then finally, you put it back in a calculation for it to show up on dynamic zone visibility. And you say, if that parameter has the words has access, then it's true. Otherwise, it's false. And so that'll then determine what shows on our dashboard or not. I will drop the link in the chat. This was for conference, everyone having their phones. But we're going to show the demo now. Grab this real quick. All right. So we used, so in this example, we've got the parameter up here because it's public and doesn't have, you're not on server. This wouldn't be there on your normal one. It would just be based on whoever logs in. But we use the little username thing to say, hey, welcome. These are all the dashboards you have access to. I am the yellow user. We've changed these for the thing. So I have access to 3 dashboards from my public. And you can click on the image and it'll take you to your dashboard. However, my coworker Jackie only has access to 1. So she only has access to the 1. So when she logs into the landing page, she's going to only see this one. And then my boss has access to 2. Briefly, I mentioned the tab order. So this is the one that's working, I think. There we go. So it'll tab in through the title to say, hey, what are you looking at? This is for changing the parameter. It'll read out, hey, Jackie, welcome. It'll read out, what is it that you want to see today? And then for this user experience, what we wanted to do was say, first read the title and the description of the dashboard so that the person using a keyboard has that information. And then it goes over to the image that they can hit enter on and go to. And so that's how we had to go break that top down, left, right for users who are using the keyboard. But for sighted users, we're more, it's that image and then it for that look and feel of kind of reading like, okay, that's the dashboard and this is what it's about. So that's how we kind of brought those two together. And I went really fast because I think I was more nervous for this than Tableau Conference. But that's what we have, and I'm welcome any questions. And I'm going to figure out how to stop sharing before it crashes again. I'm looking in the Q&A.
Yes, I'm trying to read the question. I mean, one question that you have is like, how difficult is like, it's not here, but with landing page, I always have like my doubts about doing a landing page because how I have to, update it.
Yeah. Yes, and this one does need to be updated. The client that we built this for, we don't have 3,000 dashboards. It's definitely doable. But landing pages can be done in that kind of automated way by hitting the Tableau REST API. And that's definitely a way to do it if you want to have something that's a little bit cleaner than server or cloud's landing page and still getting that row level security.
Okay, no, I think it was a good use case, to be honest. Let's see if we have other question. The chat, we love it. We have one question from Helen. We use group to grant permission on Tableau Cloud. Does this work for group?
It can, depending on how you pull down the information. You would need to just pull down not only the group, but then the users within the group. And at that point, then you would be able to still match on that user ID to make sure who has access or who doesn't.
No, I really love your version. I think it was very clean. I have done several landing pages in the past, and this one is very, very clean. I remember I did a landing page years ago on Tableau Public to kind of like having the feature that we have now about classification, because I wanted really to have a classification on my Viz.
Yeah.
So I used the Tableau public log at that time. I even wrote a post that sometimes I have like comment on it. That's fun. Another question is, this dashboard will be downloadable on Tableau public?
It should be, and if it is not, I will make sure that it is.
Okay. Just share the link with me. I will try to find it, but it's always easier.
Yeah, no.
And the same, if you want, like any of the speaker today wants like to share with me like the blog post or a YouTube channel, whatever inspiration that you have or your own work, please do so. Let's see, we have the chat. Most people like your presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, so another question is, they will ask you all the user function. If I wonder if we could use isMemberOf function to work with groups.
Probably. I haven't played around with that one, but you can. Why it wouldn't work.
You can.
Yeah, I was like, I don't see why it wouldn't work.
Okay, no, that was excellent. I'm trying to check if we don't have any more questions before closing. Yeah.
Oh, I see one in the Q&A.
Yeah, please.
So we put the landing page on server, and then for this particular client, the way that they access server is through Okta. Just forgot it. And so instead of putting a link to server for Tableau, it says if you want to access Tableau, and we just put this, we just put the landing page up there. So they don't usually go to server. I mean, you can, once you get there, you can, use the breadcrumbs if you're a super user. But we just kind of bypass that altogether, and we just put the landing page there that they can go back to. But it would work whether you have, server and then the landing page or just the landing page itself, because as long as they're logged in, it's going to pick up that username or that is member of or whatever to hit that row level security. Does this require access to Postgres? It depends on how you want to build your row level security. Tableau actually put together, it's a few years old, but I think it's still pretty relevant, white paper on row level security and different ways you can set it up. So if you want to set it up by pulling down from server, then someone is going to have that access. And then putting it in a data lake, as long as you need access to that table as well. But you can do it in different ways if that access isn't there or isn't as usable or someone doesn't have that knowledge.
Indeed. I mean, a way to simplify is also to create 20 landing page in all of the different folders that you have on Tableau server. So at least that, it's secure.
Yes.
No. It's cool. No, I think that we have finished with the question. Do you want to conclude, Prasam?
Sure. But thank you so much, Nicole, again for such a great presentation, Dan and Elisa. And thanks so much, everyone, for keeping it alive, asking so many questions, as well as having all these conversations in the chat. That's so nice of you. Just after TC, having this much energy, and Annabelle is having great energy as always. Are you having too many chocolates? I still didn't had mine, to be honest. I'm just sleeping for the last 3 days.
Yeah, because you arrived late, right? When did you arrive back home?
Almost Sunday night. 11. Yeah.
That's why I got one additional day to recover. That's why I have a higher level of energy today.
I tried today to go to office, and I went to office, and it was like, oh, I made a wrong choice.
Do you want that I cut this part too, Prasam, for the recording?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so everyone, thank you so much for coming, and please scan the QR code. We have already lined up for our next month event, so be there, and we'll be there to host you again and bring some great speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you soon.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Good night.